Hello everyone. If you love plants and if you enjoy gardening, then you've come to the right place. Today I want to speak to you about quite a unique climbing plant or vine. It was one that I discovered only a year ago, and at the time I was rather sad that I hadn't heard of it before or indeed had never tried to grow it before. And so when I finally set out to sowing the seeds and seeing it through from seed to seed, I thought this is definitely a plant that I need to recommend and I need to keep growing year after year. It is the cup and saucer vine, or scientifically known as Cobaea scandens. And for those of you that know it or don't know it, please stay and watch because I'm going to talk you through some of the mistakes to avoid, how to grow it, how to sow it. And for those of you that are not that interested, I dare you to stay and keep watching because I am certain by the end of this video, you will want to grow your own. So the cup and saucer vine is a fast-growing perennial climber, and it comes from Central America, most notably Mexico. And this should give you an idea of the conditions it prefers and optimally would thrive in. However, in colder climates, it's grown as an annual. And I thought I had a chance at seeing it through winter, but the moment the very first hard frost hit, that was the end of the plant. And that's exactly what we would expect in this part of the world. And so I have to talk first about mistake number one, which is sowing them too early. This was a mistake I made in my first season because they do need a long season to grow before they eventually start flowering much later in summer, almost into autumn. And so I thought, well, let me sow these as soon as I can. And that was in the beginning or the middle of January last year. And the problem with that is that I really, really struggle to keep up with them. They take a little bit of time to germinate and then eventually emerge. But once they do emerge and they get given enough light and heat, they really, really do romp away. And this was the problem. So I really struggled keeping up with them. I kept having to transplant them into bigger pots. I then eventually had to supply a form of a trellis for them to grow upon because they have tendrils that help themselves up. And they really were quite vigorous indoors. So much so that by the time they were pretty much ready to go outdoors, it just wasn't conducive to that. It was still too cold. There could have been a frost or two, and I just didn't want to risk losing them. So yes, I had my work cut out for me by keeping them indoors. And so this would be tip number one, is to not sow them too early. They do need a bit of time to grow, but I would say wait kind of February, even early March to get them going, because once they are strong plants, you can put them in the garden knowing that all risk of frost has passed, and this is when they will grow away. And it was in this growing phase that I became quite frustrated and sort of despondent because for a long time they seemed to really only grow little tendrils and not very long leaves and stems. But persistence and patience paid off because eventually they really did start romping away, and once they had grown sufficiently in a vegetative state, they eventually converted to flowering. And this is where all the fun began. Mistake one, which is sowing them too early, organically leads into mistakes number two and three. And so I'm going to show you this seed tray, which I'm about to sow, and then I will speak you through the next two mistakes to avoid when it comes to sowing these lovely plants. The good thing about making these videos is that I am forced for once to keep my sowing bench clean, which is a miracle upon itself. I have here a handful of seeds of Cobaea scandens, and hopefully you can see their size and the fact that they are relatively flat. And this brings me on to mistake number two, which is sowing these seeds too deeply. Now, generally, larger seeds tend to need to be sown deeper, and small seeds are obviously scattered on the surface if they require more light. But in this case, for cup and saucer vine, it's actually best to place the seeds on top of the surface and then cover them very lightly with some seed sowing compost or some grit or vermiculite. And this really gives them their best chance to emerge and to really start growing because they are sun lovers and they are light lovers. Right, so as mentioned, these will be placed on top of the surface, and as a rule of thumb, one tends to sow 10% more than the final number of plants that you end up wanting to have. And so I'm going to sow approximately 9 little plants, and I will be more than happy if I end up with about 6 or so good and strong growing seedlings. Now, I had two choices in this regard. One, to sow them in a flat tray like this and to cover them and have them emerge and then transplant into individual small pots. Or I could have probably sown them in a multi-purpose compost, which has a little bit more nutrients, each in their individual pots, and then the transplanting activity, or at least one of them, would have been omitted or cut out. But I'm going to sow them like this because I want to see how many of them germinate well, and then once I'm happy with the strongest selection of plants, I will just move them on into their own pots. Now that they have been sown, I have to speak about mistake number 3, which is using heavy and wet compost. The problem with this is that poor drainage often leads to slow starting and unhappy seedlings. So your best bet is to use a seedling compost or a seedling mix, such as the one I've had them on, have them on now. It's a light, fluffy, very airy, perfectly blended mix to allow for enough water and enough air to the seedling, and this is the key to ensuring optimal germination and emergence. So avoid heavy, wet composts at all costs, and this really applies to a lot of plants. Now that I've sown them, and bearing in mind mistake number 2 was planting them too deeply, I'm going to just lightly cover them with a little bit of horticultural grit. And actually, I can admit that I have not done this with seeds before. It is quite common practice. I've seen a lot of garden role models, my own garden role models, do this, so I'm giving it a go. I hope this grit is fine enough. But what it does do is it anchors in the plants and it avoids them sitting wet in very damp compost. And it allows good amounts of light and air through. So there you have it. A little light covering of grit on top of the seeds, and they should now be in the best position and best place to really start growing once I've placed them on a bit of a heat mat and provided them with some good light. I spoke earlier about the fact that I struggled with giving them enough support last year when I sowed them too early because they are very vigorous and they have tendrils. And this brings me to mistake number 4, which is not providing that necessary support. What I've learned from doing this is that they tend to climb and tangle, and before you know it, they're flopping over each other and holding onto other plants and bits of pieces of material and furniture that you might have in the immediate vicinity. And this causes a lot of grief with untangling them and trying to keep them organized and growing upright. So don't make this classic mistake. Provide them with enough climbing material, with a bit of a trellis and some support for their tendrils to really cling onto early on. Mistake number 5 is also one I alluded to earlier on in the video, and this is the one that really frustrated me the most about growing this lovely, beautiful plant last year. And it is expecting flowers too soon. Yes, they are vigorous plants, they grow quickly, they look to be absolutely full of life and energy, but my gosh, do they take their time to flower. They put a lot of time and energy into growing their leaves and stems and tendrils, and once the weather allows and once they've grown enough and sufficiently, they then start presenting their beautiful flowers only ever so slowly at the beginning. But once they've reached their maximum flower stage, my oh my, do they impress. And so, number 5, avoid expecting them to flower too soon. Keep them happy, keep them watered, keep providing them with all the conditions that they need, sunlight and heat, although a lot of that won't be in your control once they are out in the garden, and they will reward you eventually. That I can guarantee. And speaking about the flowers, they are interesting because they start off as sort of being lime green or slightly darker green, and then they start converting into their lovely lilacs and purples. And there are also varieties which are white. This would be Cobaea scandens variety alba, one I've not grown before, but I'm quite keen to give it a go. Although from the research I've done, they seem to not be so reliant and not so easy to get going and growing as the normal variety, which is purple. And so yes, like I said, the flowers then turn to purple, which is a beautiful color in contrast to the green saucer that you would find behind the flowering bract. And I don't know, and this is perhaps something that you can comment on in the video if you've ever grown these or have experience with them. They are said to have a bit of a fragrance, but I have to admit it's not one I absolutely love. I've cut them before and put them indoors, and it just reminds me too much of a sort of cabbage. You know, it's part of. I even thought, is it in that family of plants? Does it belong to the brassicas? Because it really did remind me of that sort of astringent cabbage smell. Maybe I'm the only one. I don't know, but please do let me know if you have this experience yourself. Mistake number 6 is underestimating how big they can grow. And this is a mistake I very nearly made last year. I thought in a British summer they might not grow as vigorous and as far and wide as they could, but my gosh, did they not disappoint. They really went for it. And the result was I had to try and sort of keep them in tune, and I had to restrict their growth a little bit by avoiding them from climbing onto neighboring shrubs and perennials. And I didn't feel great about doing this because I think these plants want to be given free bounds to just grow. And you know, in warmer climates, they can grow several meters per year. So yes, don't make this mistake. Give them plenty of space and plan where you want to grow, and have them grow, because they will reward you by filling out that space ever so beautifully. I believe by avoiding these mistakes and following these basic tips that I provided in this video, you really will be absolutely pleasantly surprised at how wonderfully easy they are to grow and how rewarding they eventually are. Let me know in the comments if you've ever grown one, or if you are now perhaps more interested in growing one, and I would love to hear from you if you have any other tips or if you've experienced any other issues. I would also love if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoyed this video, if you found it insightful, and perhaps if you've learned something. And if not, then at the end of the day, if I've inspired you, then that would already mean so much to me. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one very soon.